Hello good people and welcome back. In this video we're going to start with Unit 5, and Unit 5 is going to be on trading strategies involving options. Now so far Unit 1 through 4, Unit 1 through 3 we talked about futures and forward, and we looked at trading strategies using futures and forward. Unit 4 was on the mechanics of the option market, and now we're looking at trading strategies using options in Unit 5. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start working on this on our board, and once we're done with the board, then we're going to come back and look at the slides. But before we get to the board, what I want to do is I want to give an idea of what we should expect, right? What we're going to be touching on before we get back to the slides and kind of summarize all of our work. So we are going to consider a series of strategies. In Unit 4, we looked essentially at scenarios where we could essentially construct a portfolio of options only. And so that would be the options only scenario. But then in this unit, what we have, and this is what we saw in the last unit, and remember what we had, right? What we had was we could go long on a call, and a long call profit profile was long call. We could go short call, and the short was the opposite of the long, so the short call would be something like this. And then we had a long put. The long put option contract gave us a profile that looked like this. And then we had the short put, which is the opposite of the long put, and the short put profile was what we had here, and it looked something like this. Now my drawing is not clear, but we know what these shapes look like, what they refer to. So this is our long call, this is our short call, this is our long put, and this is our short put. And that is a scenario where we're working with options only, and we know what the payoffs for each one of those positions would look like. And so if we have a portfolio of those, we would essentially find the payout of the portfolio as a whole. In this unit though, what we're going to do, we're going to combine this with other assets that we know how to value. For example, we're going to start with looking at principal protected notes, and those are bond portfolio, bond plus option portfolios. We're going to look at stock plus option portfolios. We're going to look at two or more options in the of the same type. Those portfolios that are made up or that are constructed with two or more options contracts of the same type, that is two calls or two puts with different strike price and maturity, these are going to be referred to as spreads. And when we are looking at two or more options of different types, as one call, one put, for example, those are going to be a combination of options, and each one of the strategy would have a specific name, and that's what we're going to be looking at. So we're going to go to our board, and we're going to start working our way through these options strategies, summarizing them, trying to understand them on the board before we come back to the slides and kind of summarize what our findings. So I'll see you on the board here in a second. Now what I want to do is I want to start with a scenario where we are working with options only. So I'm going to say options only. And that's one option, right? No combination, just one option. And so just as a summary, and that's what we saw in Unit 4, this is what we had. That would be our long call, and here we would have our strike price. This would be our long call, and this is our stock price here. And what we're going to have here as a payoff would be the maximum of the stock price as ST minus the strike price and 0. Now the short call is the opposite of the long call. So our short call would look very similar to our long call. But our long call, remember that what in the long call, what we do is we pay the premium. This would be our call premium. For the short call, we're receiving the call premium. So our profile is going to be something like this, where we receive the call premium. And as soon as the stock price goes above the strike price, we start losing. And so that's what we're going to have. And so this is going to be our short call. And at the short call, we're going to have our strike price here. Now, the long call is going to be positive here and going to be negative here. The short call is going to be positive here to the extent of the premium, and it's going to be negative there. Now, the payoff of the short call is going to be minus what we have for the long call. So it's going to be minus the maximum of the stock price minus the strike price and 0. That is our payoff for the short call. Now, we also have the puts. And so for our put, this is what we're going to have. In this case, with the put option contract, we have the right to sell, and we can only sell if the value of the line is below the strike price, because we'll be selling at a higher price, right? And so our put structure would look something like this, a put profile. And that is, we will be paying the option premium for the put. So we pay the option premium for the put here. However, whenever the underlying goes below the strike price, and that will be our strike price, we would be profiting here. If it goes above, we're still at the 0 here. We're losing here. And here, what we're going to have is a scenario where we are working with a short put. And with our short put, we have the opposite of the long put. Remember, this is our long put. With our short put, we have the opposite of a long put, and the short put receives the premium. So the short put payoff is going to look something like this, where we are going to be negative here and positive here. And at this point, we're still going to have our strike price there. Now, go back and revisit for the payoff. I'm going to leave that off for the put option for you to go back and revisit. But simply remember that the payoff of the short put here is going to be equal to the negative of the payoff of the long put, right? So payoff here of the short put is minus the payoff of the long put. And that's what we're gonna have. So as a refresher for yourself, look for the payoff for short and long put. All right. So these are the first strategies. You could either take a position in an option only. Now, the second strategy we're going to look at would be to, and this is essentially what we looked at in Unit 4. So go back and revisit the introductory discussion in Unit 4. The second strategy that we could put in place is what we're going to refer to as a principal protected note. And what a principal protected note, let's call that principal protected note. And what a principal protected note does, it allows an investor to take a risky position without losing the principal, right? So that is that principal that is protected by the position. So you're taking a risky position, but at the same time, you are not losing any of the principal invested. That is what a principal protected note allows for us to be able to do. And typically this is a transaction that occurs between an investor and a financial intermediary. So let's take a scenario of an investor who has, let's say, $1,000, $2,000 to invest. This investor is saying, well, I want to take a risky position, but I don't want to lose any of the $2,000. So the investor is going to reach out to the bank, and the bank is going to create what's referred to as a structured product. And that structured product is what this principal protected note is going to allow the investor to do just that. Take a risky position without risking the capital or the principal that is invested. And the way the bank is going to do that is by guaranteeing first that you're going to earn at the end of this agreement, at maturity, you're going to earn the $2,000 back. So you're making the investments today, and you're going to look at the performance of your investment over a period of time. Let's call that period of time T here. Because you want to protect your investment, the principal, the future value of your investment here should at least be equal to the $2,000. And one way we can guarantee that you're going to have the $2,000 here in the future is by essentially purchasing a zero coupon bond that matures in T years and would have a future value of $2,000. So the first step would be to buy a zero coupon bond with essentially a face value of 2,000. Actually, let's change that number. Let's put that number at 1,000 to make it easy. So we're going to buy a zero coupon bond with a face value of 1,000. Zero coupon bond face value equal 1,000. Now, what is a zero coupon bond? No interest payment over the life of the bond, face value at maturity. So we know that we're going to be receiving the face value at maturity based on this zero coupon bond. There's no interest payment over the life of the bond. How much do we pay for the bond today? Now, so the price of the bond is going to be equal to the present value of the $1,000 that we invest. Now, let's say the interest rate is 6% for the year. And so what would be the price of that bond? The price of that bond would be equal to the present value of 1,000 at 6% for, let's say, T here is equal to 3 years. The price of that bond would be equal to the $1,000. Present value of that means you multiply by the exponential of minus 6% for 3 years. And so this will give us the present value. And so let's pull our financial calculator and do just that. So it's going to be 6%, 0.06 minus multiplied by 3 equal. That's going to be the exponential here. Second function exponential. So second function exponential multiplied by 1,000 equal. So 835.27. So it's going to be 835.27. So what does that mean? What this means is for the bank to guarantee that this investor will receive the $1,000 in 3 years, the bank would go and purchase a zero coupon bond that guarantees $1,000 in the future. That zero coupon bond is going to have a price today of $835. And so today, the bank has $1,000 that the investor has. So we're going to say the bank here is going to take that $1,000. That is the principal. And the bank is going to spend $835 It's rounded to 835 for the zero coupon bond. And so what is going to be left is $1,000 minus 835 equal $165. So the bank did the following. The bank took the $1,000 from the investor, bought a zero coupon bond with a face value of 1,000. This guarantees that we're going to be receiving 1,000 in the future. The price of that zero coupon bond today is 865 and 835. That is the present value of a zero coupon bond of the face value over 3 years. That's the assumption, 3 years at a 6% interest rate. And so the bank spent the 835, which means that the bank has $165 left to play with. So now this is how much the bank has to essentially take a risk with. This is what the bank can risk in order to maximize the return on this investment. By placing $835 in this zero coupon bond, the bank guarantees that the principal is not going to be lost. Now, what can the bank do? Well, the bank could take a long position in a call contract, and if the bank takes a long position in a call option that has a future value, a potential future payoff at more than 1,000, or that has a strike price of 1,000, what the bank is going to be able to do is cash in on that difference. And what does that really mean? Well, let's say the bank is able to find a call option with the strike price equal to $1,000. The idea here is that the contract as a whole is going to be at $1,000, right? Strike price. And so if the bank is able to do that, and the bank can pay $165 or less for that call option contract, so the premium on the call as a whole would be less than or equal to the $165 that we have left to invest, then the bank can satisfy the need of his investor. And how would that actually work? Well, let's say the bank took a position, a long call with a strike price of $1,000 on a portfolio of stock. Let's say today's value, or the value of the portfolio at this point in time in the future, that's what we care about after all. That value of the portfolio could be, let's see, the value of the portfolio could either be, I'm just going to redo this, could either be 900, or the value of the portfolio could be 1,200. That is 3 years from now. Now, the strike price is at 1,000 on our call. What is going to happen in 3 years? Well, in 3 years, we have a position in the zero coupon bond, which means that we will be receiving the present value of our investment, which is what, 835. So we are receiving $8,000. That is from our zero coupon bond. Now, what do we do with $1,000? Well, it depends on whether our option contract is in the money or out of money. Well, if the price is at $900, what does that mean? The strike price is at 1,000, but market value is $900. Well, we're not going to exercise that option, right? Because it would be out of the money. Remember, it's a call option. So it's out of the money. We're not exercising that option, which means that the option expires with a payoff of 0. And so final value is at $1,000. We've not lost our principal. We're still at $1,000. Now, let's say the price of the option is at 12, the price of the portfolio, right, is at 1200. In this case, what do we have? Well, we're still getting the $1,000 from our bond portfolio, right? So we got the $1,000 from our zero coupon bond. We also have a call option on this portfolio with a strike price of 1,000. But the value of the portfolio is now 1,200. What does that mean? The option is in the money. And so remember, it's a call option. The option is in the money. Because the option is in the money, what do? We exercise the option. By exercising the option, we have to pay the strike price, which means that we have to pay the strike price. Now, we have the money to pay the strike price because we have the $1,000 to invest. So we pay for the strike price now, and then we turn around and receive the underlying, receive the portfolio that's worth 1,200, and we turn around and sell it right away for 1,200. So we sell it for 1,200. And ultimately, what do we have? We had $1,000 from our bond portfolio. We exercised the call, spent $1,000 to purchase the underlying, turn around and sold the underlying right away for 1,200. So our return here is at $1,200. So what is the return on this investment? Well, the return on this investment is going to be one of two things. It's going to be the maximum of the zero of the $1,000, that is that, or the $1,200. That is if the underlying here is this value or that value, depending on how that goes. So perhaps I shouldn't say the maximum. It would be one of these two values. All right, this would be our principal protected note, and our principal protected note would be a combination, therefore, of two investments, one in bonds and the second one in option. That will be our first option strategy: principal protected note, bond, and option contract. Now we're going to touch on the second strategy here in a second. Now the second set of strategies we're going to look at is going to involve a single stock. So this is going to be a single stock, a single option, and a stock. Now, in the earlier strategies that we had, the very first set that we looked at, where we could only look at options only, we had essentially 4 scenarios, and each one of these 4 scenarios is going to apply here, right? But in addition to each one of the 4 scenarios, we're going to bring in a position in stock, and that's what we're looking at. So let's go back to our point here, and what I want to do is I want to start with a scenario where we own the stock. Essentially, our single option and stock could be constructed in 2 ways. So we could have our stock position, and we could either take a long or a short position in stock. And then we also have our option position. So let's do this. Let's call this stocks. Actually, what I want to do is I want to do this. Let me say stocks here, and then I'm going to say option here. And for stocks, I could either take a long or a short position. So that's going to be my long position, and this is going to be my short position. And for the option, I could either take a long position or a short position. But then with option, I have 2. I have calls and puts. So I could be with puts, or it could be with long or short calls. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at strategies that make sense to be put together. So when you look at this, you may be tempted to say, well, I could take a long put long stock, I could take a long put short stock, or I could take a long, that is a long stock short put, or I could take a short stock short put, or I could take a long stock long call, or a long stock short call, or I could also take a long call short stock, or I could take a short call short stock. However, not all of these combinations make sense. It turns out that the combinations that actually make the most sense for any investors out there are the following. The first one is going to be the one where what we're going to do is we're going to take a long position in the stock and a short position call. So the long position in the stock would be that stock. So we're going to take a long position in the stock, and then we're going to take a short position in the call. So I'm going to long stock short call would be that scenario there. The second scenario is going to be where we're going to take a short position in stock and a long position in the call. So short position in the stock, that's short stock, and the long call, that's going to be this scenario here. And finally, what we're going to look at the scenarios where we have a long position in the put and a long position in the stock. So long position in the put and a long position in the stock, that's going to be that scenario there. And we're also going to take a short position in the put and a short position in the stock. So short position in the put and a short position in the stock. You see the asymmetry that we have there. When we're working with the put option, what we're going to be doing is we're going to take the same position in the underlying as we're taking in the option. That is, if we take a long position in the option, we're going to take a long position in the stock. If we're taking a short position in the option, we're going to take a short position in the stock. So with puts, we take the same position with the option as with the stock. Long, long, short, short. That's for the put. However, for the call, what we're going to do is we're going to take the opposite position. If we go long with the call, we're going to have to take a short with the put, with the stock. And if we go short with the call, we're going to take long with the stock. And these four set of strategies that we have here are the ones that we're going to be looking at here in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this scenario where we are taking a long position in the stock. What if we are putting a long position in the stock and then we add an option contract along with that? So under stock long, we have two options. We could either take a short call along with the long stock, or we could also take a long put along with the long stock, and that's what we're going to look at. Remember, long means buying, short means selling, and that's what we're going to be playing with. All right, so this is the scenario that I'm going to be looking at. The first scenario is a scenario where I'm taking a long stock, and I'm going to, because I'm working with a call contract for now, I'm going to take the opposite position. So I'm going to short call. Now, remember this, long stock, short call. If this were a put, we'll be doing long call, long stock, long put. Now, what would does this lead to? So let's have a diagram here and try to understand what this is. If I have a long position in the stock, let's say I'm buying the stock here. That's where I'm buying the stock. Let's call that S0. This is the stock price, and this is the profit from this position. So this is our profit. Now, if I'm buying the stock at that price, and that's all I have for now, the outcome of this position would depend on the price of the stock. So if the stock price increases, well, the outcome is going to be increasing, so it's going to be increasing. If the stock price decreases, the portfolio is going to be decreasing. So this is going to be our long position in the stock. So this will be our long stock. Now, what if I also believe, as well as I purchase the stock, I also believe that the stock price is not going to grow too far, right? We always buy the stock because we believe that it's going to be increasing in value over a period of time. So I'm buying the stock here today, but then I think that within an horizon, within a period of time of 3 months, I don't believe that the stock price is going to increase, say, by a given amount. Let's say I think at this point that the stock price cannot go all the way to this point here within the next 3 months. So if I don't think that the stock price is going to go within that point all the way, the stock price is not going to increase all the way to this point within the next 3 months. Another way I can profit from this position is by essentially writing a call contract on this stock with this value here as the strike price. By writing a call contract on this stock that I currently own, right, with a strike price that is this value that I don't believe the underlying is going to grow to over a period of time, say 3 months, what I'm doing is I'm cashing in the premium on that call option. Now, the call option is not going to be exercised if the stock price doesn't go all the way to that point. Because until the stock price gets to the strike price, that call option will be out of the money. So long as the call option is out of the money, I will retain the premium on the call option. Now, if the call option gets to a point where it becomes in the money, well, if it is in the money, the stock price would have increased anyway. I purchased it lower, the stock price increases. All I will have to do is to sell the option that I had, the stock that I have at the strike price. And so what I would want to do is I would want to sell a call option. Now, if I sold a call option, I would be receiving the premium on the call option. And that premium, let's say that premium is this much. I'm receiving the premium on the call option. And because I sold it, my call position would look something like that. And this will be my short call. So I have my long position in the stock and I have my short position in the call. Now, because I sold the call option, the amount of money that I'm receiving for the call option, which is this amount of money here, essentially reduces the amount of money that I paid for the stock itself, right? So it reduces the amount of money that I paid for the stock by the same amount. So in effect, really what I did is I didn't quite pay for the stock at S0 here. I paid for the stock as S0 minus what I received for the call option. Which means that changes, that moves or shifts my long stock position up. And it's going to shift my long stock position to this point where I'm going to be here. It's going to be a parallel line all the way, and it's going to be decreasing as well. So that would be my new long position after I write this contract, this call contract, and I receive this call premium. That would be my call premium. Now, what if the call then gets exercised? Well, the call can only be exercised if the value of the stock is equal to the strike price or more. So if the call is going to be exercised, it's going to be exercised at this point where my stock price is going to be around here, right? So when my stock price is right there, that is where my call can be exercised. And so if it is exercised, all I have to do is to sell my stock that I currently own at the strike price, and therefore by selling, I'm essentially capping my gains on this stock at this value, which is the strike price. So my gain is therefore going to be capped at this value, which is going to be my strike price. And so my overall profit position is going to be what I have here, which is my current position, long position in the stock, all the way to a point where the stock can be, this call can be exercised. And as soon as the call is exercised, my profit position is level. So I have capped my profit to the strike price because at this point the call is exercised. And this position would have this green line as a payoff or profit. And so this position, that is essentially long stock plus short call, is referred to as a covered call position. And my covered call essentially says that the call contract that I wrote, that I sold, is protected or is covered by the long position that I took in the stock. That would be my covered call. And my covered call would satisfy this first scenario where we have long stock, short call. That would be that scenario that I satisfy. So we can put a check mark on this and say done. Next, what we're going to do is consider the opposite side of this position that we just described here. And so the opposite side to this position that we constructed is essentially going to be a scenario where we took a long position here, and that long position was to purchase a security stock from a third party. So that third party in effect took a short position in stock. So that would be the short stock. And in this, by the same token, we took a short position in the call, which means that the counterparty to this would be a long position in the call. And so we can say short stock plus long call. And the short stock plus long call would essentially be the reverse covered call position. So it would be a reverse covered call position. Remember, the covered call is long stock, short call, and here what we're doing, we're just taking the other side of this transaction. So what would the payoff look like? Well, if we took a short position in the stock, that's the first one. If we took a short position in the stock, our payoff would look something like that, right? So we would have our profit line, our stock price line, and in this case we're taking a short position in the stock. So we are essentially selling the stock, and our payoff is going to be for the short position in stock is going to be this. That's going to be our short stock. That is, we sold the stock at a given price. But along with that, we did take a long position in the call. What is our long call position? Well, our long call position is we get the premium. We pay the premium because it's a long call. We pay the premium, and we essentially waiting for the price to go past the strike price. That would be our strike price here. And so if the price of the underlying goes past the strike price, so that will be our stock price, and this will be our profit. If the price of the underlying goes past the strike price, we would exercise the option. So what is the overall payoff here? Well, we took a short position in stock, which means we sold the stock. We got some money from the sale of the stock. However, we use a little bit of that to pay for the premium on our call option. And the premium on our call option is this amount of money that we had to pay. That's a negative value, right? Remember, that's a 0 here. So in effect, the value that we receive from the sale of the stock has reduced by some, and we're going to shift that long stock profile down, and this is essentially what we would have. Now, by the same token, the sale of need to clean this up a little bit better. There we go. the sale of the purchase of the call position, the purchase of the call allows for us to minimize our losses if the value of the underlying increase. Remember, a short stock is profitable if the value of the underlying decreases, the value of the stock decreases. But if the value of the stock increases, we are essentially in a negative area. And so by purchasing the call, we are protecting our the negative side of this position that we have here. And so if the value of the line goes past the strike price, we would essentially exercise the option. And by exercising the option, we are locking down our potential loss. And so our potential loss is going to be minimized to this point, or maximized to this point, right? This is the maximum loss that we will incur here. And so our overall profile will be something like this. And that purple line would be our overall profile. And this would be our reverse covered call position. And again, all what this reverse covered call position is the opposite side to the covered call position we described earlier. All right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to look at a position that combines put option. So this in effect takes care of the second scenario that we had, and that second scenario was short stock, long call. And so our short stock, which is that short stock, long call would be this value here. So we can put a check mark here and say, well, we've done this strategy and that strategy. Now what we're left to do is the long stock, and then long put. That's the strategy that we have to take now. And we would also look at the strategy that does short stock, short put. Now, when we work with the call, remember we take the opposite positions. The short call goes with the long stock, whereas the short stock goes with the long call. That's what we have. With the put, they both take the same position, right? So if we go to if we take a long call, a long put, I'm sorry. With the put, if we take a long put, we're going to take a long stock. If we take a short put, that's going to be a short stock as well. So with this strategy, what we're going to do is essentially take a long position in the stock and also a long position in the put. Now, why would you take a long position in the put? Well, the put option protects you against downward movement in the value of the stock price or of the underlying. And so if you're purchasing a put, really you will want to have your put option to have a strike price that's below the current stock price, right? That allows for your put option to protect you in the event where the value of the underlying falls. So let's draw that scenario here. So we're going to do long stock plus long put. So our profit structure is going to look like this. All right, so we're going to have our stock price here. And if we're long stock, let's say we purchase it in a stock here. If we're long stock, stock price is going to be increasing. For every dollar that we earn in the stock price, we're going to have a profit of $1, right? That's what it is. So this is our profit here. For every dollar that we earn in the stock price, we're going to have a profit of $1. For every dollar that we lose on the stock price, we get a loss of $1. So this is going to be our long stock position. Very similar to what we had earlier. That's our long stock. Now, in addition to that, what we are going to do is going to purchase a put option. Now, we want to have a put option that has a strike price that's below the current value of the stock price, right? So we want a put option to have a strike price somewhere around here, for that strike price to be below the stock price. But at the same time, we are paying for that put option, right? Because if we pay for the put option, essentially we have to if we buy put option, we have to pay a premium. That premium is going to come here. So the premium in effect is going to be increasing the price of our stock. So it's going to increase the price of our stock to a point about here. So what is the structure, the profile for a long put? Well, a long put is profitable if the value of the underlying decreases. So we're going to have a scenario where if the value of the underlying decreases, the put is going to be profitable. So we're going to have something like this. That's for our put. And the value of underlying is, if the value of the underlying increases, the put is going to be, it's not going to be exercised, and therefore the payoff is going to be look something like that, right? So you essentially lose the premium if the value of the line increases, and you have the right to sell if the value of the line decreases and you're selling at the strike price. Now, the overall payoff is essentially going to be the following. Well, now what we realize is, because the price of the option has increased by the price of the stock has increased by the amount of the premium that you paid for the put option, this is going to slope right, it's going to shift right essentially, and the slope is going to be parallel to what we had earlier. And so we're going to have something that goes all the way down. That is the new profile for our stock, long stock. Now, if the value of the line falls below the strike price, which is about here, the put option is going to be in the money, and therefore it's going to be exercised. So our profile is going to ignore anything that happens after that point. So this is going to be our overall profile. So we can essentially get rid of that portion. So overall profile here, our profit and loss on this strategy is going to be that green line. So this is going to be our long stock plus long put, and that gives us a protective put strategy. So early on, what we did was looking at long stock short call, and that long stock short call had a payoff or a profit structure that looked like that what we had there in the green with the green line. Now what does that green line also look like? This green line that we have here, it also looks like something that we had earlier. So if we go all the way up, it also looks like something that we had in our short put, right? Our short put had a payoff that looked exactly like what we have when we're combining our long stock and our short call. So this is essentially, I'm going to use a different color here to make it look. This is essentially what we have. So our covered call essentially replicates what we have with our short put. The cover call, which is this blue line here that we have, has exactly the same shape as our short put. So our cover call replicates the short put. Now let's take a look at the payoff that we have for the strategy, the reverse covered call. For the reverse covered call, we took a short position in the stock and a long position in the call, and that gave us this purple line that I'm now going to override with the blue here. And so this has the same payoff as, let's go all the way back up, our long put. And so we're going to go all the way back here. This is going to be our long put. So our reverse call is essentially a long put strategy. Now, what we have here with the long stock, long put, which is a protective put, it has the same payoff as, look at this shape here. That is the same as what we have earlier that is our long call. And so if we go back all the way, our protective put is essentially a long call strategy. The idea here overall, what we're learning here is that you can reconstruct any one of the option only strategies by creating a combination of option and stock strategy. Now, I'll leave the last scenario to you as an assignment and try to see if you can reconstruct, if you will, the reverse of the protective put. So for the reverse of our protective put, what do we have? In this case, we have a long stock, long put. What I want you to do is you want to think about the profile of what you would have. That is the short stock. Remember, for the put, you do the same, right? So for the put, if you take a long put, take a long stock as well. Now we're taking a short stock, so we're also going to take a short put. So short stock plus short put, what does that replicate the payoff of? And that is what I want you guys to play with. So I'm going to go back to the slides really quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on the few strategies that we've looked at so far. The first strategy that we looked at was the protected principal protected note, and we played with it. The idea essentially is the fact that we locking ourselves in a zero coupon bond that guarantees that our principal is repaid, and the difference between the price of a bond today and the amount of our investment, the price of a bond, which is the present value of our investment, which is in this case was 1,000, that difference is what gets invested in call options. And the outcome of this strategy depends on the way in which the stock price behaves. So if the stock price decreases, or the portfolio that we're investing in decreases, our payoff is essentially our principal, because that's protected, that's principal protected. But then if the portfolio's value increases over time, we still getting the payoff on our bond position, but then we can use the payoff of our bond position in order to exercise the call option. And once we exercise the call option, we tap into the profit, which is the difference between the value of the underlying and the strike price. That was our principal protected note. And what that does is it allows the investor to take a risky position without risking any of the principal. Remember, the principal is protected by the zero coupon bond. A couple of other things about principal protected notes. The viability of this strategy, the effectiveness of the strategy depends on the levels of dividends that's paid over that period of time, because the level of dividend affects the value of the stock price. It also depends on the level of interest rates, and the level of interest rate drives the future value of your investment, or dictates what the present value of your bond investment is going to look like. And also depends on the volatility of the portfolio, because you want the portfolio to move enough so that the call option becomes in the money and therefore can be exercised. Now, the strategy that we've described so far, was one where we would essentially, was fairly straightforward, right? So we would essentially buy a zero coupon bond and then also buy call options. And there was a call option that we bought where at the money. That's at the money call option. And so there are multiple variation of this base strategy for your principal protected notes, and that's what we're referring to here. Those variation on the standard product. That standard product is this base product that we have here, and those variation would include things like instead of buying at the money call options, you could get out of the money call options. And out of the money call option will make the option price a little cheaper, more affordable, but then the likelihood of the option becoming in the money before expiration is also going to depend on that volatility of the bond portfolio. So that is something that is doable. There are caps that can be put on the return that the investor want to earn. There are knockouts and other averaging features that we're not going to get into, but that basic strategy can be modified in a variety of ways, essentially. We also talked about so far positions that would use both options in stock, and we looked at that first position that was essentially a long stock short call, and a long stock short call strategy is what we refer to as a covered call, and this is what the profile that we had there was. So long stock was our yield, our line there. Let's check, maybe I should use a different color here. That was our long stock, and our short call was that line that we had here, and our payoff for the strategy was the red line that we have there. So this was a covered call strategy, and here was the reverse covered call. And what we had here was our long stock, long put, long stock, long put, and the payoff here replicated essentially what we had as a long call. And the payoff that we had here replicated another one. So look at what these payoff are essentially. So I'm going to stop here for this video, and when I'm going to get back, look at the other strategies. So far, essentially, we've touched on the options only strategies. That's what we looked at, these sets of strategies: long call, short call, long put, short put. Stocks plus we also look at principal protected notes, our structured product. That was that. So we looked at this first option, second strategy, and then we also talked about the third strategy, which are stocks and option. In the next video, what we're going to touch on are strategies that involve two or more options of the same type. So those are spread strategies, and we're also going to consider combinations of different type of options. I will see you in the next video for just that.